The scarf slipped. One moment, Thandi Mbatha was invisible, just another housekeeper in designer heels clicking past her on the marble lobby floor of the Apex residences. The next, her headscarf caught on her cleaning cart, and the fabric pulled away, exposing the scar that ran from her left temple down to her jaw. She froze. Her hand flew up too late. Across the lobby, Kang Yoon-seo looked up from his phone. Their eyes met for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for him to see what she'd spent 2 years hiding. Long enough for her to see him seeing her. Then she ran. Welcome to Empire Unmasked TV, besties. If you're new here, then just sit back and relax as I take you on a journey of power, forbidden love, and broken trust between two broken people who found each other in the most dangerous way possible. Hit that like button and subscribe to support this growing channel. That's the only way I feel motivated to keep posting amazing stories like this. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Yoon stood in the lobby long after she disappeared into the service elevator, his phone forgotten in his hand. Park Min-jae emerged from the parking garage, took one look at his boss's face, and stopped short. Find out who she is, Yoon said quietly. MJ knew better than to ask questions. 20 minutes later, he had a name. Thandi Mbatha, 28, South African immigrant, worked for Elite Cleaning Services, lived in a one-bedroom in Koreatown with her 8-year-old daughter. Clean record. No husband listed on any paperwork. Leave it alone, Hyung, MJ said, using the honorific that acknowledged their 15-year friendship beneath the professional hierarchy. You know what happens when you get involved. Yoon's fingers traced the dragon tattoo hidden beneath his Tom Ford suit sleeve. She's afraid. Everyone's afraid of you. Not of me. She was afraid before she saw me. But MJ was right about one thing. Yoon's interest was dangerous. Everything he touched eventually bled. 3 days later, Thandi returned to the Apex on her regular Thursday rotation. She'd considered quitting, finding a different route, a different building. But jobs that paid in cash and didn't ask questions about visa status were rare. She needed this. She kept her head down, her scarf secured with 3 pins instead of 2. She moved through Yoon's penthouse like a ghost, silent, efficient, invisible. Exactly how she'd survived since leaving Johannesburg. The apartment was immaculate as always. White leather furniture that no one sat on. Stainless steel kitchen that no one cooked in. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city she moved through but didn't belong to. She was dusting the bookshelf when she noticed it. A Korean tea set arranged on the coffee table that hadn't been there last week. The pot was still warm. That's boricha, a voice said behind her. Barley tea. Thandi spun, her heart slamming against her ribs. Yoon stood in the doorway of his home office, wearing black slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. The dragon's tail was visible on his left forearm, disappearing under the fabric. I didn't know you were home, Mr. Kang. I can come back. Stay. He moved into the room with that unsettling stillness he had, like a predator that didn't need to rush. Please, have tea with me. It wasn't a request. Men like him didn't make requests. But then he did something unexpected. He pulled out the chair for her, waited. His dark eyes held hers, and she saw something there that made her throat tight. Recognition. Not of her face, but of something deeper. I don't drink tea with clients, she said carefully. Then don't think of me as a client. He poured 2 cups with precise, practiced movements. Think of me as someone who understands what it means to make yourself small. Her hand trembled as she accepted the cup. The tea was nutty, slightly sweet, grounding. They sat in silence for a full minute before he spoke again. The scar, he said. How long has it been? 2 years, 3 months, 16 days. The man who did it, is he still a problem? Every instinct screamed at her to lie, to deflect, to disappear back into invisibility. But something about the way he asked, flat, factual, like he was gathering intelligence, made her tell the truth. He's here, in the city. Naledi saw him last week at the grocery store. Naledi is your daughter. It wasn't a question. He'd already found out everything about her. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something dangerous blooming in her chest, the feeling of being known. Yes, she's 8. Yoon's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on his cup. Tell me his name. Why would you care? The words came out sharper than she intended. I'm nobody. I clean your toilet, Mr. Kang. Why would somebody like you waste time on somebody like me? Now his expression did shift, something like pain flickering across his features before the mask returned. Because I know what it's like to be hunted, and I know what it's like to have no one believe you deserve protection. He stood, walked to the window. The afternoon sun hit him from behind, creating a halo effect that made him look almost holy. But Thandi knew better. She'd seen enough violence to recognize its residue. His name is Bonganin Kosi, she said finally. He followed me from South Africa. He thinks Naledi is his, but she's not. She's never been his. Has he approached you? Not yet. He's watching, waiting. Yoon turned back to her, and for the first time she saw the dragon fully. It wound up his arm across his shoulder, disappearing under his collar. The detail was extraordinary. Each scale was shaded individually, and the creature's eyes seemed to track her movement. I can make him leave, Yoon said. Permanently or temporarily. Your choice. And there it was. The offer she'd known was coming the moment he'd asked her to sit. Protection from a predator by becoming prey to a different one. What do you want in return? Her voice was steady, even as her hands shook. Have dinner with me. You and Naledi. Let me cook for you. Of all the things she'd expected, that wasn't one of them. You cook? The smallest smile touched his lips. I do many things people don't expect, Miss Mbatha. She should have said no, should have grabbed her cleaning supplies and never come back. But Naledi had been having nightmares again, waking up screaming that the bad man was in her room, and Thandi was so tired of being afraid. One dinner, she said, then we're even, and you leave us alone. One dinner, he agreed. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, I'll send a car. But what she didn't know yet was that this dinner would set off a chain of events that would shatter both their carefully constructed worlds. The next evening, Thandi stood in front of her tiny apartment bathroom mirror, trying to decide if she was being incredibly stupid or just desperate. Probably both. Mama, you look pretty. Naledi bounced into the doorframe, wearing her favorite yellow dress with flowers that Gogo had sent from Johannesburg before she died. Pretty. Thandi studied her reflection critically. She'd left her hair uncovered for the first time in months, her natural curls framing her face. The scar was visible, but she'd stopped trying to hide it. The simple green dress she'd bought at the Goodwill made her look almost normal, like a woman going on a date instead of a woman trading dinner for protection. Awusho. Don't say such things, she murmured in Zulu, but she was smiling despite herself. The car arrived precisely at 6:45. Not a sleek town car like she'd expected, but a modest Honda sedan with tinted windows. MJ was driving, his expression carefully neutral as he opened the back door. Ms. Mbatha, Miss Naledi, good evening. Naledi gripped Thandi's hand as they slid into the back seat. Is this Yoon's car? One of them, MJ said, meeting Thandi's eyes in the rearview mirror. He thought this would be less conspicuous. The drive to Koreatown took 20 minutes. MJ pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a building to Aos. Thandi didn't recognize, then led them to a private elevator that opened directly into a penthouse apartment, but not the sterile showpiece she cleaned every Thursday. This space was lived in. Warm lighting instead of harsh white. Framed photographs on the walls. Seoul cityscapes, Korean countryside, a faded picture of a young woman holding a baby. The open kitchen smelled incredible, rich with garlic and sesame oil and something sweet baking. Yoon stood at the stove, wearing jeans and a plain black t-shirt that revealed both arms completely covered in tattoos. Not just the dragon. There were Korean characters running down his right arm, a tiger on his left shoulder, peonies and chrysanthemums blooming across his skin in black and gray and splashes of color. He looked younger like this, more human. Welcome, he said, and there was genuine warmth in his voice. Naledi, I made hotchok for dessert. Sweet pancakes. Do you like sweet things? Naledi nodded, still clutching Thandi's hand, but curious now instead of afraid. Good. You can help me cook them after dinner if you'd like. But first, he gestured to the dining table, which was set for 3. Please, sit. Let me feed you properly. The meal was extraordinary. Galbi, marinated short ribs so tender they fell off the bone. Like kimchi that made Thandi's eyes water in the best way. Japchae, glass noodles with vegetables that tasted like someone's grandmother had spent hours preparing them. Rice cooked perfectly in a stone pot, the bottom layer crispy and golden. You really made all this? Thandi asked, watching Naledi demolish her third rib. My Uma taught me before she died. She said a man who can't feed himself is only half a person. He refilled Thandi's water glass, his movements careful, non-threatening. Food is how we show love in Korean families, how we apologize, how we celebrate. In Zulu families too, Gogo used to make umkusho, samp and beans, whenever something important happened. Tell me about her. Your grandmother. And somehow in that warm kitchen that smelled like home, Thandi found herself talking about Gogo's small house in Soweto with the garden where she grew spinach and tomatoes. About how she'd raised Thandi after Thandi's parents died in a car accident. About the stories Gogo told in Zulu, keeping their culture alive even as the world around them changed. She didn't talk about Bongani. Not yet. Not with Naledi listening. But later, after they'd made hariok together, Naledi shrieking with laughter as the dough sizzled and puffed. After MJ had driven them home and Naledi was asleep in her bed, Thandi's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for letting me see you tonight. Both of you. YKS. She stared at the message for a long time before responding. Thank you for the meal. Naledi wants to know if we can come back. The reply was immediate. Anytime. I mean that. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, I sent someone to watch your building tonight. You're safe. Sleep well. Thandi should have been angry. He was having her surveilled, inserting himself into her life without permission. But instead, for the first time in 2 years, she slept through the night without waking up to check the locks. The next 2 weeks developed a rhythm that felt almost normal. Yoon would text in the mornings. Nothing demanding, just simple check-ins. Did Naledi sleep well? The weather will be cold today. Stay warm. Twice more, they had dinner at his apartment. The conversation flowed easier each time. He told her about growing up in Seoul, about the father who'd beaten him until he was 13 and big enough to hit back. About joining the gang because they were the only family that wanted him. I'm not a good man, he said one night after Naledi had fallen asleep on his couch, full of bulgogi and ice cream. I've hurt people, killed people. I'm trying to get out, but it's not clean. It's never clean. Why are you telling me this? Thandi whispered, afraid to wake her daughter, afraid of the answer. Because you deserve to know what you're getting close to. I'm dangerous, Thandi. Not to you. Never to you. But the world I live in doesn't make exceptions for innocent people. She looked at him then, really looked. Saw the scars hidden among the tattoos, the careful way he moved like violence was always a possibility, the loneliness in his eyes that matched her own. I'm not innocent either, she said. I ran away in the middle of the night with my daughter and fake documents. I lied to get into this country. I've stolen food when we were hungry. Good and bad aren't as simple as you think. His hand reached across the table, stopped halfway like he was asking permission. She took it. His palm was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. When this is over, he said, when Bongani is gone and you're safe, will you let me take you on a real date? Not protection, not obligation, just because I want to know everything about you. Stay with me, because what happens next will change everything between them, and not in the way either of them expected. The trouble started on a Tuesday. Thandi was walking Naledi home from school when she saw him. Bongani leaned against a lamppost across the street, smiling that cruel smile she remembered from Johannesburg. He didn't approach, didn't need to. The message was clear. I can get to her anytime I want. Her hands shook so badly she could barely unlock her apartment door. Once inside, she triple-checked the locks, pulled all the curtains, and called Yoon. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? He was there, outside Naledi's school. He knows where she is, Yoon. He knows. Stay inside. Lock everything. I'm sending MJ to watch your building. I'll handle this. Handle it how? A pause. Then quietly, how do you want me to handle it? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. She knew what he was asking, knew what he was capable of, part of her, the part that remembered Bongani's fists, his threats, the night she'd grabbed Naledi and run with nothing but the clothes on their backs, wanted to say make him disappear. I don't want you to kill him, she said finally. But I want him gone. I want him to never come near my daughter again. Then that's what will happen. I promise you, Thandi. He won't hurt you anymore. That night, Yoon found Bongani at a dive bar in East LA. MJ stayed in the car. This was personal. Inside, Bongani was laughing with two other men, drinking cheap beer, looking like he didn't have a care in the world, looking like he hadn't terrorized a woman and child for years. Yoon sat down next to him at the bar, ordered a whiskey, waited. Bongani noticed him after the second drink. "Can I help you, friend?" "You've been following Thandi." The easy smile faded. "Who?" Yoon turned to face him fully, and whatever Bongani saw in his expression made him lean back. "What, don't insult my intelligence. I know who you are. I know what you did to her in Johannesburg. I know you followed her here. She's mine. That kid is mine." "No." Yoon's voice was flat, factual, final. "She's not. And you're leaving. Tonight. There's a flight to Johannesburg at 11:30. You'll be on it." Bongani laughed, but it was nervous now. "Or what?" In one fluid motion, Yoon grabbed Bongani's hand and slammed it onto the bar, producing a knife from nowhere. The tip pressed against Bongani's pinky finger, not quite breaking skin. "This is not a threat. This is information. Get on that plane, or I will find you again, and next time, I won't be offering choices." He released Bongani's hand and stood, leaving a $100 bill for his untouched whiskey. At the door, he paused. "If you ever even think about Thandi or Naledi again, I will know, and I will finish what I started tonight." Thandi was waiting when he called an hour later. "It's done. He'll be on a plane back to South Africa tonight." MJ confirmed he went straight to LAX. The relief that flooded through her was so intense she had to sit down. "Thank you, Yoon. I don't know how to..." "Don't thank me yet." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. "What does that mean?" "Detective Sarah Chen has been investigating my organization for 6 months. She saw me leave that bar tonight. She's going to start looking at my connections, which means she's going to find you." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that protecting you may have made you less safe. I'm sorry, Thandi. I should have thought this through better." He was right. 3 days later, Detective Chen showed up at Thandi's apartment with questions. Why was she connected to Kang Yoon-seo? Had he threatened her? Was she being coerced? "He's a friend," Thandi said carefully. "He's a criminal. Mid-level enforcer for the Seoul Syndicate, suspected in at least 4 murders. Chen's expression softened. "I've seen your immigration paperwork, Miss Mbatha. I know you're vulnerable. If he's forcing you into something..." "He's not. He helped me with a problem. That's all." But Chen didn't believe her. Why would she? On paper, it looked exactly like what it was, a powerful man inserting himself into a vulnerable woman's life. The detective left her card. "When you're ready to talk, call me. I can help you." That night, lying in bed, Thandi stared at the ceiling and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. Yoon had kept his promise. Bongani was gone. But at what cost? Her phone buzzed. "Can I see you tomorrow?" "Please." "I need to explain some things." She should have said no, should have recognized that every interaction pulled her deeper into a world she didn't understand. But she texted back, "Come to Mugungwa, the Korean restaurant on 5th Street, noon." The restaurant was busy enough for cover, quiet enough for conversation. Yoon arrived early, already seated in a back booth when she walked in. He looked tired, worried, human in a way that made her heart ache. "I'm going to tell you everything," he said as soon as she sat down. "And then you're going to decide if you want me to disappear from your life." For the next hour, he laid it all out. His role in the Seoul Syndicate, the money laundering, the protection rackets, the violence he'd committed in the name of loyalty. His plans to get out, plans that were complicated and dangerous and might get him killed. "I never wanted this life," he said. "But I was good at it, and it paid well, and somewhere along the way, I forgot I had a choice. Until I saw you in that lobby, until I saw someone else trying to be invisible." "Why did that matter?" Thandi asked. "Why me?" "Because you reminded me what I used to be. Before the gang, before the violence, I was just a scared kid trying to survive. I saw that same fear in you, and I couldn't walk away." He reached across the table, and this time she met him halfway. Their fingers intertwined, and it felt like a promise neither of them had words for yet. "I'm not asking you to fix me," he continued. "I'm not asking you to save me. I'm just asking for a chance to prove I can be someone different. Someone worthy of." His phone buzzed. Then hers. Then the TV above the bar switched to breaking news, and Thandi's blood turned to ice. Breaking. Young girl reported missing from Koreatown apartment. Witnesses report seeing the child with an unidentified Asian man. The photo on screen was Naledi's school picture. Thandi couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her vision narrowed to that photo, her baby's face plastered across the screen with the word missing underneath. No, she whispered. No, no. Yoon already had his phone to his ear, barking orders in Korean. But Thandi wasn't listening. She was running out of the restaurant, down the street toward her apartment building where police cars were already gathering. MJ caught her before she could reach the police line. Miss Mbatha, wait! Get off me! That's my daughter! Naledi! Naledi! A uniformed officer approached, and behind him, Detective Chen with an expression that made Thandi's legs give out. Miss Mbatha, when did you last see your daughter? This morning. I dropped her at school. She was supposed to go to Mrs. Kim's after. Where is she? Where is my baby? Chen's eyes flicked over Thandi's shoulder, and her expression hardened. Mr. Kang. Interesting timing. Yoon had followed her, MJ flanking him. He looked at the police, at the gathering news crews, at Thandi collapsed on the sidewalk, and Thandi saw the exact moment he understood. You think I took her, he said flatly. Multiple witnesses saw an Asian man with distinctive tattoos picking up a young black girl from the apartment building this afternoon, Chen said. That girl is now missing. You've been seen with Miss Mbatha and her daughter repeatedly over the past 3 weeks. So yes, Mr. Kang, I think you took her. I was at Mugungwa with Miss Mbatha. We have witnesses. Until 20 minutes ago. Naledi was taken 40 minutes ago. MJ stepped forward. It wasn't him. Then who was it? And MJ, loyal MJ, who'd been Yoon's brother for 15 years, said the words that shattered everything. It was probably one of ours. Someone trying to send a message about Yoon going soft. The silence that followed was deafening. Thandi looked at Yoon, really looked at him, and saw what she should have seen from the beginning. Not her protector, not her salvation. Just another dangerous man whose world devoured everything it touched. This is your fault, she said, her voice breaking. You did this. You brought this violence into our lives. Thandi, I swear to you, I didn't. Get away from me! She was screaming now, tears streaming down her face. You promised she'd be safe! You promised! The police separated them then. Chen was reading Yoon his rights while other officers tried to calm Thandi down. She heard none of it. All she could hear was Naledi's voice from that morning. Mama, can Yoon teach me to make kimchi next time? Her baby. Her whole world. Gone because she'd let herself believe a man with blood on his hands could protect instead of destroy. They questioned Yoon for 6 hours. He gave them nothing, not because he wouldn't, but because he genuinely didn't know who'd taken Naledi. His own people had turned on him, and he'd been too distracted by a woman with sad eyes and a beautiful daughter to see it coming. MJ bailed him out at midnight. They sat in the car outside the police station, neither speaking until Yoon finally broke. Find her. Hung, I don't care what it costs. I don't care who I have to hurt. Find her and bring her home. And Miss Mbatha? Yoon's hands clenched into fists. She'll never forgive me. She shouldn't forgive me. But none of that matters if Naledi isn't safe. By dawn, MJ had the answer. Kim Dae-jung, one of Yoon's lieutenants, had taken the girl to force Yoon's hand. Dae-jung was being pressured by the Seoul bosses to prove Yoon was still loyal, still dangerous, still one of them. Taking the child was meant to be a test. Would Yoon choose the organization or his new weakness? They found Naledi in a warehouse in Vernon, unharmed but terrified. Yoon went in alone, unarmed, which was either the bravest or stupidest thing he'd ever done. Dae-jung had 3 men with him. Naledi sat in a corner, crying silently. You were supposed to be a king, Dae-jung said in Korean. Now look at you, domesticated by a woman and her bastard child. Let her go. This is between us. No, this is between you and everyone you've abandoned. You think you can just walk away? You think love erases what you've done? Yoon met Naledi's eyes across the warehouse. She was so small, so scared, and it broke something fundamental inside him. You're right, he said quietly. I can't erase what I've done, but I can choose what I do next. He dropped to his knees, hands visible and empty. Let her go, and I'll come back. I'll do whatever the bosses want. I'll give up everything. Just let her go home to her mother. What he didn't know was that MJ had already called Detective Chen. What he didn't know was that police were surrounding the building. What he didn't know was that Thandi was in one of those police cars, listening to the negotiations, hearing him offer up his freedom for her daughter. The standoff ended when SWAT breached the warehouse. Dae-jung and his men were arrested. Naledi ran straight past the police officers to Yoon, who caught her and held her like she was made of glass. "I want my mama," she sobbed into his shoulder. "I know, sweetheart. I know. She's right outside." He carried her out of the warehouse, and Thandi ran toward them, and for one moment, their eyes met over Naledi's head. She saw everything. His relief, his grief, his love for this child that wasn't his acceptance that he'd lost them both. She took Naledi from his arms without a word. Detective Chen arrested him 30 seconds later, not for kidnapping. The evidence cleared him of that. But for the bar confrontation with Bongani, for assault with a deadly weapon, for making terroristic threats. Someone had talked, probably Bongani himself, and Chen had her case. As they put him in the police car, Yoon looked back at Thandi one last time. She stood there holding Naledi, her face wet with tears, and mouthed two words he couldn't decipher. "Thank you," or "I'm sorry," or "goodbye forever." He hoped it was the first, feared it was the last. 3 weeks later, Yoon was released on bail pending trial. His lawyer said they had a decent chance. The evidence was circumstantial, and Bongani had a record that made him an unreliable witness. But Yoon barely listened. He'd lost the only thing that mattered. MJ drove him home to the sterile penthouse, not the warm apartment where he'd cooked dinner for a woman and child who'd made him want to be better. "She hasn't called," Yoon said. "Hyung, give her time. Her daughter was kidnapped because of you. She's angry." "She should be. I am poison. Everything I touch dies." But MJ was tired of watching his friend disappear into guilt. "You want to know what really happened?" "I know what happened. I brought violence into their lives." "You saved that kid's life, you idiot." MJ grabbed Yoon by the shoulders, forced him to listen. Dae-jung wasn't going to let her go. He was going to kill her to prove a point. You went in there unarmed and offered yourself up. You traded your freedom for hers. How is that poison? Then why won't she talk to me? Maybe because she's scared. Maybe because she doesn't know how to trust someone like you. Or maybe. MJ pulled out his phone, showed Yoon a photo he'd taken at the warehouse. Thandi, watching Yoon carry Naledi out, her expression not angry, but something else entirely. Something that looked like heartbreak and hope warring on her face. "Maybe she wants to forgive you, but doesn't know if she should," MJ finished. Yoon stared at the photo for a long time. Then he did something he'd never done in his entire life. He asked for help. "How do I fix this?" "You can't. Only she can decide if you're worth the risk." MJ headed for the door, paused. "But if it were me, I'd tell her the truth. All of it. The parts you're ashamed of, the reasons you became who you are. Let her see everything and choose for herself." After MJ left, Yoon sat in his empty apartment and wrote a letter he wasn't sure he'd ever send. "Thandi, I am not good with words, especially not in English. But MJ says I need to tell you the truth, so I will try. My Uma died when I was 13. Cancer. My Appa blamed me because I was the reason she stayed. She wanted to raise me somewhere safe, somewhere better than the poverty we came from. She worked herself to death trying to give me that better life, and he never forgave me for it. After she died, he started drinking. Then hitting. Then I got big enough to hit back, and I put him in the hospital. The gang found me after that. A kid with no family, no money, no future but rage. They taught me to channel that rage. It made me useful. For 15 years, I was useful. I hurt people. I collected debts. I did things I can't take back, things that should have made me feel something but didn't. I was empty, Thandi. A ghost moving through the world with no purpose except survival. Then I saw you in that lobby, trying so hard to be invisible, and I remembered what it felt like to be human. You were so beautiful and so scared, and I wanted to protect you the only way I knew how, with violence, with power, with control. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant for Naledi to be hurt. If I could go back and stay away from you both, if that would keep you safe, I would. But I can't lie and say I regret knowing you. You and your daughter gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, hope that I could be someone different. I'm leaving the gang. Detective Chen is offering me a deal. Testify against the Seoul Syndicate bosses, and she'll reduce my charges. It means witness protection, a new identity, leaving behind everything I've known. It also means I'll probably never see you again. I'm taking the deal. Not for me, but because as long as I'm connected to that world, you and Naledi will never be truly safe. I need to burn it all down, even if I burn with it. Thank you for letting me love you, even though I did it badly. Thank you for showing me what a real family looks like. Thank you for being brave enough to run toward the life you wanted, even when the world kept telling you to disappear. Stay visible, Thandi. Stay beautiful. Stay strong. You deserve everything. YKS. He sealed the letter and gave it to MJ to deliver. He didn't expect a response. But Thandi read it 3 times, then 4, then she lost count. She read it while Naledi slept, while she cooked dinner, while she rode the bus to her new cleaning jobs in different buildings where no one knew her name. She read it until she realized something. Yoon had never asked her what she wanted. He'd decided what was best for her, just like every other man in her life. The difference was that he'd chosen sacrifice instead of control, but it was still a choice made without her. Not this time, she muttered. Naledi looked up from her homework. What, Mama? Nothing. Standwa. Keep working. But it wasn't nothing. For the first time in her life, Thandi was going to fight for what she wanted instead of accepting what she was given. She found him at Mugungwa, sitting alone in the same back booth where they'd sat before everything fell apart. He looked thinner, tired, older. He saw her and started to stand, then thought better of it. Thandi, I didn't know you'd... MJ shouldn't have told you where. Sit down. She slid into the booth across from him. And listen. He sat. You don't get to decide you're too dangerous for me. You don't get to make yourself the villain of this story and walk away feeling noble. Her voice was steady, strong, the voice of a woman who'd crossed an ocean and survived hell and wasn't about to let a man, any man, tell her what her life should look like. You did something stupid and violent to protect my daughter. You also saved her life. Both of those things are true. You're dangerous. You're also the first man who ever made me feel safe enough to stop hiding. Both of those things are true too. Yoon's hands trembled on the table. I thought you hated me. After what happened, I was terrified. I am terrified. Do you understand what it's like to love someone who lives in a world where children get kidnapped to prove a point? Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. But I also understand what it's like to be defined by your worst moments, to believe you don't deserve love because of the things you've survived. She reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers like a lifeline. You were going to disappear without asking me what I wanted, she continued, without giving me a choice. That's not protection, Yoon. That's just another kind of control. I was trying to keep you safe. I know, and I'm telling you that I don't need you to keep me safe. I need you to be with me, to ask me what I'm afraid of instead of deciding for me, to let me choose you even when it's dangerous, even when it's messy, even when it's hard. He looked at her like she'd just performed a miracle. You want to choose me? I want to choose us, but that means you have to let me in, all the way. No more deciding what I can handle. No more protecting me from the truth. If we do this, we do it together. The trial. I know. Detective Chen told me about the deal. Testify, get witness protection, start over. She squeezed his hand. So we start over, together. You, me, and Naledi. New city, new names, new life. You would do that? Give up everything here? Thandi laughed, and it was bitter and bright at the same time. What am I giving up? A 1-bedroom apartment and cash jobs that pay nothing? I came to this country with nothing, Yoon. I can do it again. The only thing that matters is Naledi and she. Thandi's voice softened. She asks about you every day. When is Yoon coming back? Is he okay? Does he still want to teach me to make kimchi? Now Yoon did cry, silent tears tracking down his face that he didn't bother to wipe away. I don't deserve this. Either of you. Maybe not. But love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing every single day to be better than you were yesterday. Can you do that? With you? Yes, I can try. She stood up, pulled him to his feet, and kissed him. Not gentle, not tentative, but fierce and claiming and real. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Then let's try together. But Yoon, if you ever make a decision about my life or Naledi's life without asking us first, I will take her and disappear so completely you'll never find us. Do you understand? I understand. Good. Now take me home. I want Naledi to see that you came back, that you're real, that people who leave can also choose to stay. The trial took 4 months. Yoon testified against 15 members of the Seoul Syndicate, including the bosses who'd ordered hits, run guns, trafficked people. Detective Chen's case was airtight with his testimony, and one by one they fell. Dae-jung got 20 years. The bosses got life without parole, and Yoon got immunity and witness protection in exchange for burning down the empire he'd helped build. Through it all, Thandi sat in the gallery every single day. Naledi stayed with Mrs. Kim, but Thandi was there, and Yoon could feel her presence like a shield. On the day of sentencing, when the judge officially released him into witness protection, Chen approached Thandi in the hallway. "You know what you're signing up for, right?" the detective asked. "New identities, no contact with anyone from your old lives, moving every few years if there's a threat. It's not romantic. It's lonely and hard." "I crossed an ocean with a child and no money to escape a man who beat me," Thandi said quietly. "I think I can handle lonely and hard." Chen studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "He's lucky to have you." "No, we're lucky to have each other. There's a difference." 6 months later, in Portland, Oregon, James Park and Tessa Williams signed a lease on a small house with a backyard. Their daughter Lily started 3rd grade at the local elementary school. On paper, they were a normal family: an accountant, a catering business owner, and their daughter. In reality, they were 3 people learning what it meant to build a family from scratch. Yoon, James now, worked for a nonprofit helping at-risk youth. His tattoos were usually covered by long sleeves, but sometimes, when he was helping a kid who reminded him of his younger self, he'd roll them up. Let them see that someone with a past like his could still choose a different future. Thandi, Tessa, had finally opened the restaurant she dreamed about. Nothing fancy, just a small place called Gogo's Kitchen that served South African and Korean fusion food. Bunny chow with kimchi, boerewors with gochujang, koeksister with honey butter and black sesame. The restaurant was her rebellion against invisibility. Every dish announced exactly who she was, a South African woman in America, in love with a Korean man, creating something new from their 2 worlds. And Naledi, Lily now, though she sometimes forgot and signed her schoolwork with her real name, was thriving. She'd inherited her mother's strength and Yoon's protective instincts, but tempered with a joy neither of them had known at her age. The nightmares about Bongani had stopped. She slept through the night now, secure in the knowledge that the man she called Dad, not Yoon anymore, just Dad, checked the locks every night and would burn down the world before he let anyone hurt her. On their first anniversary together, measured not from their first dinner, but from the day Thandi had walked into Mugunghwa and chosen him, they had a quiet celebration at home. Naledi was at a sleepover, giving them rare time alone. Yoon cooked galbi the way his mother had taught him. Thandi made umkusho the way Gogo had taught her. They ate family style, mixing the dishes together on one plate, feeding each other bites and laughing when Thandi couldn't handle the spicy kimchi. After dinner, they sat on the back porch watching the sunset. Yoon's arm was around Thandi's shoulders, her head resting against his chest. It was domestic and ordinary and perfect. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. "Leaving your life behind for this?" "Every day," she said honestly, and felt him tense. "I regret not doing it sooner. Not finding you sooner. Not choosing myself sooner." He relaxed, pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "I'm afraid all the time that I'll mess this up, that I'll make the wrong choice and lose you both. You will mess up, so will I. That's what people do." She tilted her face up to look at him. "But the difference between you and every other man I've known is that you'll try not to. You'll ask for help. You'll let me be angry. You'll keep choosing us even when it's hard." "How do you know?" "Because you already have. Every single day for 6 months, you've chosen us. You've gone to therapy. You've learned to ask instead of command. You've let Naledi see you cry, which scared you more than any fight you've ever been in." It was true. Last week, Naledi had asked why he had so many tattoos, and instead of deflecting, he'd told her the truth. "Because I used to be someone scary, and the tattoos reminded everyone of that. But now they remind me that I can be someone different, that the past doesn't have to be the future." She'd thought about it seriously, then said, "I think they're beautiful. They tell your story." He'd cried then, this hard man who'd killed without remorse, broken down by the acceptance of an 8-year-old girl who saw him as simply Dad. "I love you. he said now, there on the porch in Portland, where no one from their old lives could find them. I don't say it enough, but I do. You changed my life, Thandi. Tessa, she corrected with a smile. We're Tessa and James now, remember? You'll always be Thandi to me, the woman who taught me that being seen isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing we can do. She kissed him then, slow and deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips, then keep seeing me, every day, even when I'm difficult, even when I'm scared, even when I'm invisible again. Especially then, he promised, and he kept that promise. Through the hard days when Thandi's trauma resurfaced and she couldn't let him touch her without flinching. Through the nights when his nightmares about the warehouse had him waking up screaming. Through Naledi's therapy sessions where she processed the kidnapping and learned to trust that her new life was permanent. They kept choosing each other. 2 years later, Detective Chen called. There'd been a threat. Someone from the old organization had been released from prison and was making noise about finding Yoon. They'd need to move again. New identities. New city. Thandi closed Gogo's kitchen with 2 weeks' notice, breaking her heart but not her resolve. Yoon quit his job at the nonprofit, said goodbye to the kids he'd been mentoring. Naledi packed up her room, cried over leaving her friends, but understood why they had to go. On their last night in Portland, they had dinner together at the empty restaurant, just the three of them, eating leftovers and remembering. I liked being Lily, Naledi said, but I think I'm ready to be someone new, someone who's not scared anymore. You were never scared, Yoon said. You were careful. There's a difference. Is that what you tell yourself about the nightmares? She was 10 now, old enough to see through adult pretenses. He laughed despite himself. Yes, that's exactly what I tell myself. Okay, then I'm careful, not scared. She looked between her mother and the man who'd become her father. Where are we going next? Minnesota, Thandi said. They have snow. Real snow, not California pretend snow. Will we have to change our food? Never, Yoon said firmly. The food is who we are. That doesn't change. Good, because I told my friends my dad makes the best kimchi in the world, and I don't want to be a liar. My dad. The words still hit him like a punch every time. My dad. This child who had no reason to trust him, who'd been kidnapped because of him, who'd seen him at his absolute worst, called him dad like it was the simplest thing in the world. Come here, he said, and pulled them both into a hug. Thandi on one side, Naledi on the other, his entire world contained in his arms. I love you both, more than anything, more than being safe, more than being comfortable, more than staying in one place forever. We know, Thandi said, and in her voice was every promise they'd made and kept. That's why we choose you too. So if you've made it this far, besties, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, because stories like this, stories about choosing love even when it's dangerous, about building families from broken pieces, about being seen even when it terrifies you, these are the stories I live to tell you. Drop a comment telling me what you thought of Thandi and Yoon's journey. Would you have forgiven him? Would you have run? And keep supporting this channel because we're just getting started, and trust me, the next story is even better. 3 years later, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, David Chen and Maya Johnson celebrated their wedding anniversary. Their daughter Sophie was 13 now, tall and fierce and fluent in 3 languages, English, Zulu, and Korean, because they'd taught her that family meant honoring every part of yourself. The restaurant was called Fusion now, simpler than Gogo's Kitchen, but with the same heart. Maya ran the front of house while David handled the books and did community outreach with immigrant families trying to find their footing in a new country. They'd been threatened twice more, moved once more after Minneapolis. But each time, they'd rebuilt. Each time, they'd chosen each other. Each time, they'd proved that love wasn't about perfect circumstances. It was about showing up every single day and doing the work. On this anniversary, with Sophie at a friend's house and the restaurant closed for a rare night off, they sat in their small backyard watching the snowfall. David's arm was around Maya's shoulders, her head resting against his chest, exactly like always. Do you think we'll ever stop running? She asked. Maybe. Probably not. He was honest now, always. They'd learned that lies, even comfortable ones, poisoned everything. But does it matter? As long as we're running together? She thought about the girl she'd been in that Apex lobby, trying to be invisible. Thought about the woman she'd become, visible, loud, proud, loved. Thought about her daughter who'd never learned to make herself small because she'd been raised by two people who'd fought their whole lives to be seen. No, she said finally. It doesn't matter, as long as it's together. They sat in silence, watching the snow cover their small piece of the world in white. Somewhere inside, the kimchi was fermenting in jars David had made with Sophie last week. On the counter, Kusho waited to be reheated for tomorrow's lunch. In the living room, photographs documented 3 different lives, 3 different names, but always the same 3 faces. They were not perfect. They were not safe. They were not even entirely legal, if anyone looked closely enough at their paperwork. But they were seen. They were loved. They were choosing each other every single day in a world that kept telling them to disappear. And that, Thandi thought, was worth everything they'd lost, and everything they'd risked, and everything they'd become. That was family. That was home. That was enough.